Okay, Hare Krishna. Welcome everybody. This is Krishna Dasa. So today we are going to do Shlokas 10.26 to 10.33. Lot of profound learnings here. So before we begin, I will say the prayer to Guru and God. Om Ajnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalake Chakshuru Militamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. We play the Guru Mantra.
गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुर्साक्षात् परब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः।
Okay, Hare Krishna. Let me play the slokas. So again, we are going to start from 10.26 to 10.33.
अश्वत्थः सर्ववृक्षाणां देवर्षीणां च नारदः गन्धर्वाणां चित्ररथः सिद्धानां कपिलो मुनिः उच्चैः श्रवसमश्वानां विद्धि माममृतोद्भवम् ऐरावतं गजेन्द्राणां नराणां च नराधिपम् आयुधानामहं वज्रं धेनूनामस्मि कामधुग् प्रजनश्चास्मि कन्दर्पः सर्पाणामस्मि वासुकिः अनन्तश्चास्मि नागानां वरुणो यादसामहम् पितॄणामर्यमा चास्मि यमः संयमतामहम् प्रह्लादश्चास्मि दैत्यानां कालः कलयतामहम् मृगाणां च मृगेन्द्रोऽहं वैनतेयश्च पक्षिणाम् पवनः पवतामस्मि रामः शस्त्रभृतामहम् झषाणां मकरश्चास्मि स्रोतसामस्मि जाह्नवी सर्गाणामादिरन्तश्च मध्यं चैवाहमर्जुन आध्यात्मविद्या विद्यानां वादः प्रवदतामहम् अक्षराणामकारोऽस्मि द्वन्द्वः सामासिकस्य च अहमेवाक्षयः कालो धाताहं विश्वतो मुखः.
Hare Krishna. So here, Krishna is continuing. He is continuing to describe his opulences. And in these verses, he is beginning by saying, Ashvatta Sarva Vrikshanam, which means among all the trees, I am the Ashvatta tree. Ashvatta tree is also known as the people tree. And in our scriptures, it has a lot of significance because the people tree is also known as a symbol of immortality because it is supposed to continue to grow and live for a very long time. Thousands of years, people trees are known to live. And so they have an extraordinary lifespan and their leaves are evergreen. They don't like fade and fall. So that is kind of symbolic of the eternal nature of Atman, soul. So in a way, Krishna is talking about his unchanging eternal nature when he says, I am the people tree. So you may know that this Ashwatha tree is also known as the Bodhi tree. It's very popular in the north as well because Siddhartha Gautama, he sat under the Bodhi tree, he meditated and then he became Buddha under that very tree. So that's why it's also known as Bodhi tree. So in other words, it also symbolizes wisdom and spiritual awakening. So as you can see, there are so many key aspects. And one other very beautiful aspect of a people tree is that usually its branches, they spread very wide. What that means is it gives a lot of shade, and many people can take shelter under its shade during sunny days. So in a way, Krishna is also encouraging us to trust in the divine and seek his refuge during challenging times, because he says, like the Ashwatha tree, I will also protect you. I will also give you shade during your sunny days, hot days. So many things Krishna is telling us using just that one statement. That is how Krishna's messages are very profound. And then Krishna says, Devarishinam cha Naradaha. Among the Devarishis, I am Narada. So first of all, what do we mean by a Devarishi? Because you know what a Rishi is? A Rishi is a saint or a sage. And in our ancient Bharat, we have three types of Rishis. The first type is Raja Rishi. The second type is Brahma Rishi. And then the third type is Deva Rishi. So Raja Rishi is a very spiritual, deeply spiritual person, but that person can hold political power also. In other words, that person can be a Raja and still be a Rishi. Okay? So it's a tough job of fulfilling the duties of a king as well as being a Vairagi. Very, very difficult job. But then there are people who have done it beautifully. One of the best examples again is Raja Janak. Does anybody remember hearing a story of Raja Janak when we studied Bhagavad Gita? Okay, some people are nodding their heads. Okay. Do you remember we read about the story of Raja Janak and Ashtavakra Muni? Yes, again, people are nodding their heads. How many people remember which chapter it was? Okay, we have one hand. Sulataji, which chapter was it?
Yeah, chapter 3, Guruji.
Wow, yay, yes. So in chapter 3, we had read about, or we discussed this story of Ashtavakra Muni, which demonstrated the whole concept of attachment. Maybe I'll take one quick minute to refresh your memories, because not many people were nodding their head. Ashtavakra Muni is a very great saint, very great sage. And so when he is in front of Raja Janak asks him one question. He says, how do we get rid of attachment? Because Sri Krishna also repeatedly says, attachment is a problem. So he's asking Ashtavakra Muni how to get rid of attachment. And then you probably remember the rest of the story. The Muni runs, goes to the kingly garden, and he hugs a tree. He hugs a tree and he starts shouting, no, leave me, leave me, leave me. And Raja Janak says, what are you doing, Rishi? The tree is not holding on to you. You are holding on to the tree. So why are you shouting, leave me? And he laughs and says, you got the message. What do you mean by how do I get rid of attachment? You are the one holding on to attachment. Attachment is not holding on to you. If you want to get rid, just stop holding, So that's a very strong lesson, because I'll tell you, pride, attachment, they're all very subtle enemies. Many times we think we don't have it, but we do. And we need to really work hard to get rid of them. And the Guru's job is to point it out, but the Guru cannot get rid of it for you. Guru can only point out, and then you have to do the actual getting rid of it. Okay. So that is a Raja Rishi. Then what is a Brahma Rishi? A Brahma Rishi, they are Brahmanas who are also Rishis. So they are in a way as more senior Rishis, because their primary job is to be a Rishi. So they don't have any kingly duties. They are focusing 100% on being a Rishi. So they are more elevated Rishi, and they are supposed to be the greatest Rishis among humans. And then comes Deva Rishi. What is Deva Rishi? They are even higher than a Brahma Rishi, because they can live in celestial planes. So they are the highest kind of Rishis. And among Deva Rishi, Narada Muni is considered to be the supreme Deva Rishi. So because he was a guru of a lot of great people, like we have heard these great luminaries like Veda Vyas, Valmiki, Dhruva, Prahalad. They are all students of Narada. Just imagine the status of Narada Muni. Veda Vyas, such an elevated sage. Narada Muni was his guru also. What was the key aspect of Narada Muni? We all know that because we have seen him portrayed in so many movies. he will all the time be singing Narayana, Narayana. So he's always singing. He's got that, instrument, and he's always singing the God's glories. But one thing I want to correct, or one thing I want to correct the perception is in the modern world, Narada Muni is always portrayed as just some mischief maker, as if he is just creating fights between people, which is not a correct portrayal, because every quarrel is a lesson. It's a lesson in disguise. So Narada's action, whatever he does, is based on deep wisdom, and his job is to show us our faults. So whenever he comes across somebody, he tries to show them their fault. That way, they can work on it and get over it. And one of the ways of exposing that fault is creating these kind of small quarrels. Like for example, one of you will come and tell me, Guruji, I have totally got control over my ego. I'll say, really? But Chitra was saying you are a stupid person. And then you go pick up a fight with Chitra, and then I say, but then you said you don't have ego. So why does it matter if she called you? So the point is not really, making you fight with somebody. The point is pointing out that you still have flaws. That is what Narada Muni used to do, and that's what we need to focus on. So Narada Muni is demonstrating. The thing he actually demonstrates is the path of unshakable devotion, tireless service, and endless compassion. Don't forget the story of Valmiki. Valmiki was a person who could not even say Rama. It was the grace of Narada which took him from there to such an elevated state where eventually he wrote the Ramayana. So, tireless service, unshakable devotion, and endless compassion. That is how Narada Muni has to be remembered. And so we should look at him with a lot of respect, and you have to So this is pretty much the heart of Gita's message, is to find God, we must become like Narada Muni. What does that mean? We have to make our lives an offering, an endless song of devotion. And we should learn to see the divine in everything and everything in the divine. That is what Narada Muni was. And another thing Narada Muni does, you remember the distinction between Bhajananandis and Sevanandis, right? We spoke about that earlier. Bhajananandis means they are elevated souls, but they are happy with their own elevation and they are busy. Whereas Sevanandis, whenever they get a little bit of elevation, they try to help somebody else also get elevated. So Narada Muni was the utmost Sevanandi, because he's always roaming around, always spreading God's message, So we should also emulate him and try to work and try to help others wake up. Help them wake up. Don't try to wake them up. Our job is to just help and prod, and people have to themselves wake up. That is the path. So that is the way of the Devarishi, the path of Narada. And the point to make here is, Krishna wants to let us know that this path is open to everybody. Anybody and everybody can embrace this path of devotion. There is no qualification. Nobody is going to stop you. And then he speaks about the Gandharvas. Who are Gandharvas? Gandharvas are the ones, musical people. They are expert musicians. And among them, the best is supposed to be Chitrarath. So Krishna is identifying with Chitrarath. And then he speaks about Siddhas. They are great yogis. And among them, the best is Kapila. Have you heard of Kapila? Did we talk about Kapila anytime in Bhagavad Gita?
Sankhya philosophy. Yeah.
Yes. Kapila, I need to do a much better job of teaching. So Kapila Muni, he established Sankhya. So whenever we talk about second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it's all Sankhya philosophy, and Kapila Muni was the one who established that whole thing. And then Krishna again talks about interesting things like the divine horse, Uchchaishrava. Why he talks about the divine horse? Because it's the fastest horse in the universe, not just any horse. And then he also identifies with Airavata, who is the white elephant that belongs to Indra. Okay. So I'm spending more time on the ones that I'm able to explain a lot, and I'm spending lesser time on things that probably I will not be able to explain too much. The thing to keep in mind is whatever category he speaks about, he wants us to know that he's the best. So if he's talking about horses, then he's the best horse in the universe. If he's talking about elephants, he's the best elephant in the universe. If he's talking about sages, he's the best sage, and so on and so forth. Now, let us now go on and talk about some of them which are very, very profound and which we can learn a lot from. So in verse 10.28, Krishna says, he says many things. Among that, he says, first of all, among weapons, I am the Vajra. So tell me something. Whenever you think about Krishna, what weapon comes to mind? Okay. Almost everybody is showing me the index finger.
Sudarshan Chakra.
Sudarshan Chakra, correct? Yes. So whenever we say Krishna, that is what comes to mind, correct? Okay. But see what Krishna is saying here in 10.28. In 10.28, he is saying, among weapons, I am the Vajra. Vajra means thunderbolt. So why? So that is why I want to dive deeper, because there is a very profound message here. Okay, because first of all, the Vajra is known for its indestructible power, and it also symbolizes spiritual enlightenment and the ability to dispel ignorance, because it's light, weapon of light, correct? But it's of course, it's kind of intriguing. Like, why is Krishna saying he's Vajra rather than Sudarshana Chakra? Because Sudarshana Chakra is supposed to be his favorite weapon, and it's supposed to be the most powerful weapon in the universe. So to understand this, it will help to also talk about a story. That story relates to a great saint. His name was Dadichi. Okay, so there was this very powerful demon. His name was Vritrasura. Very powerful demon. He was so powerful that he used to threaten even the gods. And Indra was scared. He was scared that he's going to lose his kingdom. Such a powerful demon. Then Indra goes running and he goes to Shiva. And then Shiva says, I can do only so much. Talk to Vishnu. And then he goes to Vishnu, and Vishnu says, I alone cannot do much. In other words, he says, let us have a group meeting, So there is a group meeting between Vishnu, Shiva, Indra, all of them sit together and they're like, how do we handle this Vritrasura? I mean, he is becoming so powerful that he's going to destroy the balance of the cosmos, because he's going to take over the heavens. What do we do? And then Vishnu reveals in that group meeting that only a weapon made using the bones of the great sage Dadichi, only that can defeat the demon. Vishnu is saying this. So Vishnu says, even my Sudarshana Chakra cannot help here. What you need is a weapon made of the bones of the sage Dadichi. So Indra goes to Dadichi and he explains his predicament. He says, Vishnu himself says that only your bone can help us create a weapon that can. And Dadichi has no issues at all. He readily gives it up. He readily says, you can take my body. He readily sacrifices, surrenders his body. He says, if it can be used for the sake of dharma, then what better use can there be for my body? Please use my body. So he was the embodiment of detachment, devotion, and surrender, all three together. Is that not the case? Because if you are giving up your body so readily, does that not talk about all of these qualities in one go? So by associating with the Vajra, and that weapon was Vajra that was created. So by associating with the Vajra, Krishna is emphasizing the supreme importance of those virtues that he has been talking about repeatedly. Detachment, devotion, surrender. Because it is so powerful. That's what he wants us to know. And so Krishna's choice also highlights that the true power is not in external weapons. The true power is the internal qualities. That is the true power. Because Sudarshana Chakra, although it is formidable, it is ultimately an external tool, an external weapon. Whereas Vajra symbolizes inner power, the spiritual power based on these three virtues and aligning with Dharma. Another interesting aspect that you can see here is the story of Dadichi. We saw that Vishnu, Shiva, they're all working together. So that is another example that lets us know that everything in the universe is interconnected. There is no such thing as, when we become very religious, we create divisions. We say that, oh, he is a Shaivite, he is a Vaishnavite, as if they are totally disparate, separate, opposing entities. It's not like that. Everything is interconnected. It's all part of the same. And Krishna is also reminding us that the path to victory over adharma is not always easy. It's not always straightforward. It is going to require sacrifices, just like Dadichi had to sacrifice his own body. But that's the opportunity. That's the opportunity to elevate ourselves. And Krishna wants us to know that if we can cultivate those same virtues of detachment, devotion, and surrender, we too can wield the power of the Vajra. So empowering. That is Krishna's message. His message is the real power is within you. And if you can cultivate these virtues, then from within you can arise a power which is a lot more powerful even than my Sudarshana Chakra. See, such a beautiful message coming from Sri Krishna. That is the profound wisdom here. The point to keep in mind is there are a lot of these vibhutis that Krishna is calling out. And if we can try to understand the reason behind each one of them, then we can really get a very profound understanding of Krishna's wisdom and Krishna's teachings. But if we don't try to do that, if we just look at the text would not mean much, because throughout 10th chapter, Krishna will only say, I am Marichi, I am this, I am Vajra, I am Airavata, I am Kapila. But then what do you get out of that? This is how we are supposed to read this chapter, is for each of the Vibhuti he is calling out, we are supposed to introspect. We are supposed to understand what is so special about that one thing he is calling out. What are the qualities? And what is the message behind that? And then in 10.28, Lord Krishna says, I am Kamadhenu. You all heard of Kamadhenu? Kamadhenu is the wish-fulfilling cow. And he says, I am also Kandarpa. Kandarpa is another name for Kamadev. And Vasuki, which is the king of serpents. So each one of them carries profound, deep spiritual truths. So we will cover some of them here. So Kamadhenu is also known as Surabhi. And it is the wish-fulfilling cow. And she's also known as the mother of all cows, the origin of all cows. That is Kamadhenu. Fulfilling your wishes, giving you everything that you need. That is Kamadhenu. So when I use these words, does it ring a bell? Does it relate with any shloka that you have read in the Bhagavad Gita?
9.22. Ananyas Chintayanto Mam.
Come on, guys, you have a tough competition here. Yeah, Ananya Chintayanto Mam. So where he says Yogakshemam Vahamyam, that's the whole thing he's talking about. He says, I will give you whatever you need. I will fulfill your needs. Don't worry. And that is pretty much the relevance of Kamadhenu. Kamadhenu, he is calling out here as the same spirit. Also, on a deeper level, Kamadhenu represents infinite abundance. Not just materially, but in the spiritual realm. Just like she can bestow any material desire, divine grace, the grace of Krishna, can fulfill all the needs of the soul. Krishna can fulfill everything that the soul needs, not just what the body needs. That is why it is so profound. And also this whole concept of Kamadhenu being the mother of all cows, it is highlighting the principle of unity in diversity. That means all the cows are coming from one cow. Just like that, every aspect of creation ultimately are coming from Krishna only. So many things we can appreciate and understand by just one statement that I am Kamadhenu. See, that is how I'm trying to explain this. And then Krishna is saying, I am Kandarpa, the god of love. This statement is misunderstood a lot of times. See, because in the material world, when we say procreation and continuation of the species, it is usually a function of physical attraction and desire. But in the spiritual level, it is just a tiny reflection of the soul's longing to have the union with the divine. So that is the root. That is the root emotion, the root need. The need for the soul to unite again with the divine, but that manifests itself in gross forms. So when it is manifesting in a very gross form in the material world, that is what is lust. That is what is our physical attraction. That is what makes us run behind, physical union. So when Krishna is saying that I am the cause of all procreation, he is pointing to a profound truth. He is saying that the impulse, that impulse of physical attraction, the impulse of procreation, he says that itself is based on that original root need of the soul to unite with the divine. And you need to understand that, and you need to align yourself with that divine love. So in other words, instead of letting your physical attractions distract you from the path, whenever you realize that you are in this mode of physical attraction, you have to remind yourself that this is just a reflection of a much superior divine love, a much superior longing of my soul to unite with the divine. If you can identify that, that's all is required. Then you can align all your material love with divine love. I hope this is making sense. Okay. And then this other very beautiful thing, Krishna is saying, I'm Vasuki. Vasuki is the king of serpents. These pictures, lot of pictures show Vishnu sleeping peacefully, and there is the serpent on top. So that is a very profound thing. I mean, it conveys a lot of different meanings, that one picture, because that is also known as Ananta, the same thing. So you know that in our scriptures, the serpent is usually represents spiritual energy and transformation, because like you heard the term Kundalini Yoga, right? So if you see Kundalini, they will represent that also as a snake only, a serpent. So that is in our scriptures, it represents spiritual energy and spiritual transformation. So a lot of meaning here in that one statement. So that Ananta on which Krishna or Vishnu is lying down, with Ananta has countless hoods, and each hood is supposed to be a universe in itself. Yet, what is the beauty? The beauty is all the hood, they're all connected to the same body, right? Just like that, all the infinite universes, they're all supported by the same common divine. That is the key symbolism to understand. In other words, doesn't matter how vast, how complex, how infinite things look like, ultimately they all have the root in the same absolute supreme truth. That is the message that is conveyed when they show Vishnu lying on a serpent with innumerable hoods. So that is a message that we should take away from. So by identifying himself with Vasuki, Krishna is affirming his role as the foundation and support of all of existence. So these symbols like Kamadhenu, Kandarpa, Vasuki, they're all not just mythological figures. They are very powerful examples. They are representing abundance, love, infinite diversity, so on and so forth. And by meditating on those symbols and deeper meanings, we can grasp a lot of profound truths about what Krishna is trying to impart. So profound, right? So now is it making more sense? Now when you read a statement where Krishna says, I am Vasuki or I am Kamadhenu, I hope now it starts making more sense to you. It's not just some, mundane associations. Each of those things, they have a deep, deep meaning. And you all probably know Varuna. Varuna is the god of the ocean. And what is the main characteristics of ocean? It just encompasses, it sustains countless life within its expanse. So in 10.29, Lord Krishna reveals a profound truth. What is that? He says, among aquatic deities, I am Varuna. Now we have to dive a little deeper into the symbolism of Varuna, then we will understand. Because just like the ocean nourishes and sustains all life, just like that, the divine grace will uplift and support all creatures. That is the analogy here. See, if you, inside the ocean, if you go ask a fish, if you ask a fish, can you describe the ocean? How do you think it will describe? It will probably says it doesn't know what the ocean is because it is already in it, right? So a fish is in the ocean as much as the ocean is in the fish, correct? Because what is the fish? I mean, it's full of that ocean only. So the fish is in the ocean is in the fish. The fish may not realize, but it is still in the ocean, correct? Just like that, God is not some distant, unknowable entity. God is not something that is somewhere else. That is what Krishna means by I am all pervading. I permeate everything. So just like that, we are in his ocean. But we don't even realize. We are like that fish in the ocean. Which doesn't even know what an ocean is. But it is in the ocean regardless. Just like that, we may not know what God is. And we don't have to go searching for God somewhere else because God is in us and we are in God. So when Krishna says, I am Varuna, it's a reminder that we are all part and parcel. We are a part of God. God is not a separate entity that needs to be searched. We are already a part of God. We just have to realize it. That's all. That is why it is always called God realization. It is not called God finding. It's always about God realization because God is already there. You just have to realize. Just like a fish doesn't have to go finding the ocean. The fish just has to realize that I am already in the ocean. So let us dive a little deeper, if required, into the other aspects as well. So Krishna will talk about Aryama, Yama, and the divine order. So we all read about Aditis because in the previous set of Shlokas, Krishna said, I am Vishnu among Adityas. So here he is talking about Aryama, who is the third son of Aditi. What is special about Aryama is he is supposed to be the god of all departed ancestors. If you all have any ancestors who are already dead, then they are being taken care of by Aryama. That is his job. Okay. And Yama, you all know who Yama is. Yama is the lord of death. And in 10.29, so Krishna is saying, I am among the ancestors, I am Aryama, and among the dispensers of law, I am Yama. Now let us see why. Very powerful here. Aryama, he is representing the wisdom of and sacrifice also of all those who came before us. Like even Newton once very famously said that, I'm sitting on the shoulder of giants. In other words, every generation starts from where the previous generation left, and then we take it further. So we owe a lot to our previous generation to where we are today. For example, one generation discovers that, you can boil these ores to get metal. The next generation discovers how to take that metal and make some kind of instruments. The third generation then says how to make it more sophisticated, so on and so forth, right? So we owe a lot to our previous generation, the wisdom and the sacrifices that they have made. So by identifying with Aryama, Krishna is affirming the eternal nature of the soul. He's saying that there is an unbroken chain of consciousness. What we are today, we are not just some independent piece, suspended somewhere. We are not like randomly somewhere coming out of nowhere. He's saying there is this unbroken chain that we need to be aware of. And he's also saying that we are all linked, we are all connected. The same message again and again and again and again. And what about Yama? Whenever we say Yama, there is always the picture portrait of a very fearful guy. very, somebody who looks very dangerous, very fearful. I don't know why, but they always portray Yama like that. But in truth, Yama is actually a good guy, because Yama doesn't cause your death. Your death is anyways going to happen. Yama is only responsible for what happens at your death. His job is to be very impartial, because see, as long as you are in the material plane, you can play all games, and you can do bribery, you can do corruption, you can do dramas, you can deceive, you can do all of that. Nepotism, you call it, but it all ends when you die. The moment you die, then it's all up to Yama. Doesn't matter how much contacts you have here. None of that is going to help. But in a way, it is good, na? Because the absolute majority of humanity, they are simple people. They are honest people. So Yama assures that there is impartiality and there will be fairness. That is his job. So he is not some cruel tyrant. He is a very compassionate guide. His job is to ensure that every soul receives the just, fair amount, what it deserves. That is Yama's job. In other words, there is a message also here. Each one of us, we have to face the consequence of our actions, be it good or bad. There is absolutely no escape. There is absolutely no cheating. All cheating, all these games are only in the material plane. The moment you are dead, you are at the mercy of the cosmic order, and in the cosmic order, there is absolute just, absolute fairness, absolute perfection. And everybody has to be accountable for their actions. Very powerful, very, very powerful. So Krishna says that whatever your choices, your actions, he says, you have to be accountable for that. So by aligning ourselves, so we can use it in our advantage. It's not a very, it's not like a curse. It is a great thing. If somebody tells you that at the end, it is your actions alone that determines the outcome, it's a very empowering thing. That is what we have been learning in the last 9.5 chapters, 10.5 chapters, that align yourself, follow the principles of Dharma, do the right actions, and leave the rest to God, because God will make sure that you get the right outcome. God will make sure that you get the best outcome. And here they have, brought in this entity called Yama, but it is still part of Krishna only. But he will take care. He will make sure that. So this is another meaning of karmanye vadikaraste mafaleshu kadachana, is you take care of your actions. And even when you leave the material world, somebody else is there to take care of the reactions. Be assured that there will be fairness, absolute fairness. Isn't it good? Okay. Also, it's very beautiful. The beautiful thing is, Aryama is a link to the past. And Yama is the gateway to the future. And Krishna is holding both of these together. He is the controller. So Krishna is the anchor. He is holding this whole wheel. Okay. Very important thing I want to point out. So let us honor the wisdom of our ancestors. Let's honor the sacrifices they have made. And let us live with integrity and compassion, because you have to know that every choice we make has an impact. Every decision, every choice, every action. And also, even at the time of death, we are not alone, because it's not like you die and you disappear. Even when you die, somebody is taking very keen interest on you. They are making sure that all your good actions, they get the right outcome. You see? So you are cared for even after you die. It's a very, very comforting message. Okay. Now comes one of the most profound, beautiful things. Krishna says, Prahaladas chasmi daityanam. Among the daityas, daityas means asuras, demons. Among the daityas, I am Prahalada. Wow. See, Krishna is revealing so many profound truths about the nature of the divine paths, liberation, all of that. But in my opinion, probably the most powerful and moving among all of those is his declaration here that says, I am Prahlada among Daityas. It's a very simple statement, but it contains a world of meaning. You know who Prahlada is? His son of Hiranyakashipu. He was son of a demon king, and you know who the demons were? No, the Daityas. How do you define a Daitya? Daityas, they are identified mostly by their pride, enormous pride, arrogance, and relentless pursuit of power. That is how Daityas are symbolized. In other words, if somebody is full of pride and arrogance, they have to be categorized as Daitya, not as Manav. And they are against everything good. Anything the gods do, they are against it. And yet, in the middle of all the darkness, you see Prahlada, who is glorified as one of the best devotees of Lord. Just like the lotus that blooms in muddy water, but neither mud nor water sticks to it. So beautiful. So the story of Prahlada, you all know. So I'm not going to repeat the story of Prahlada. You all know how, he was always devoted and how his father was always against, and how they tried a million different ways of persuading him, distracting him, torturing him, trying to kill him, but nothing moved him, nothing shook him. He had one point, Ananya Chintan. That is Prahlada. So it's a very powerful reminder. But what does that teach us? That is teaching us that this is what we said 2 shlokas earlier. This path of devotion is open to all. No, see, that is the fundamental difference between what Krishna himself has said versus what religion tells us. Because the moment it becomes religion, it becomes corrupted. Then people bring in all their own selfish motives, and they bring in their own selfish rules. Only a Brahmin can touch this, or only this guy can do that. But as you can see, that is not what Krishna has said. Krishna has given so many examples. He says, forget about Shudra or non-Brahmins. You don't even have to be a human. You can be a demon. And still you can be my dearest. What other assurance do you need? That is why I consider this one of the most profound statements Krishna has made. That even as a demon, you can still become my most favorite just by following the path of devotion. And Krishna is again saying this path of devotion is open, available to everybody. No limitations. Doesn't matter what you have done in the past. What you are today is based on all your actions of the past. But that's okay. That shouldn't define you. Because your actions now and from now onwards is entirely up to you. And you align it with Dharma. You align it with my teachings. And Krishna says, I will accept you. So beautiful, so compassionate. That is the Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam aspect of Krishna. He never condemns. He's always full of compassion. So Krishna is again reminding that even in the darkest of places, even in the middle of the most hostile circumstances, the light of the divine grace will still shine through. Beautiful. He says, no matter where you come from, no matter where you are, no matter what you have done, you all have the potential to awaken to your true nature, to discover the divinity within you, and to unite with me. That is why I say this is really, really very, very profound. And another thing to keep in mind, another message, if you pay attention, is this is a call to let go of all kind of judgments and preconceptions. That is why being judgmental is not aligned with the path of the divine, because you can just look at some kid and say, oh, that is a demon kid, uska koi future hi nahi hai. But what do you know? That demon kid may be Prahlada, who is the most elevated devotee on the planet. Correct? That is why we say there is a difference between judgment and discernment, and we should never get into the mode of judgment and all the time just use discernment. Okay. So let us all take inspiration from Prahlada. Let us open our hearts and seek the divine grace with complete confidence that it is available to us. Okay, it is within our reach. And then Krishna, of course, talks about being the lion among animals and Garuda among birds. That is a story which we can go to later because we still have a lot to cover today. a very important thing I want to bring out here is in the 32nd shloka, Krishna again talks about him being the beginning, middle, and end. Okay, I'm saying again, but did we really talk about it before now? Krishna being beginning, middle, and end. Does somebody remember that? Did Krishna say this in the recent past that I'm the beginning, middle, and end? Some people just turned off their video as soon as I asked the question. You can raise your hands if you think you heard it. Even if you think you heard, okay, you heard it. Excellent. So I will tell you that he said this in 10.20 and he's again repeating the same thing in 10.32. So I wanted to take a moment to dive deeper into that because although it seems like a repetition, there are some subtle differences which are very profound. So let us just see what he said in 10.20 and 10.30. Ashaji, would you like to read 10.20 and 10.32?
Yes, Guruji. Hare Krishna. 10.20 Ahamatma Gudakesha Sarvabhutashaya Sthitaha Aham Adishcha Madhyamcha Bhutanam Anta Evacha. 10.32 Sarganam Adi Antascha Madhyam Chaivaham Arjuna Adhyatma Vidya Vidyanam Vadah Pravadatamaham. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. So 10.20, the translation is, I am the self, O Gudakesha, seated in the heart of all beings. I am the beginning, middle, and end of all living beings. That was 10.20. 10.32, Krishna is saying, I am the beginning, I am the middle, and I am the end of all creations, O Arjuna. Among knowledge, I am the knowledge of the self, and among disputants, I am the conclusive truth. So, in 10.20, he is focusing on the self, the Atman, which is present in all beings. Whereas in 10.32, he is emphasizing his presence in all of creations. So, the self is Atman, whereas all of creation is also known as Sarga. These are very subtle differences. So, it seems like a repetition, but it is actually reinforcing the central theme of chapter 10. What is the central theme? The central theme is, it is Vibhuti Yoga that we are studying, which is the yoga of divine manifestation. So Krishna is talking about his omnipresence, his role as the essence of all beings and all creations. And the truth of Krishna being the integral connection of everything in the universe. So he is giving like a closure. He's saying, I am beginning, middle, and end of the Atman also. I am also the beginning, middle, and end of everything else. All of creation. So that way he's giving that completeness. So in other words, the first 10.20 was talking about the individual, which is Adhyatma. And 10.32 is covering more about the cosmic, which is also known as Sarga. So these are key concepts, Adhyatma and Sarga. So I'll go a little deeper into that. Adhyatma literally means pertaining to the self. Okay. And throughout Bhagavad Gita, as you know, Krishna has repeatedly emphasized the importance of self-knowledge. Correct? Okay. So inner self, the spiritual essence within us, that is Adhyatma. Whereas Sarga refers to the creation or the process of cosmic manifestation itself. That is Sarga. So it is including the evolution of the universe and everything, all the beings within it. So it is at a cosmic level. And so the whole science of creation, dissolution of the universe, that is all, that subject matter is Sarga. I hope it's making sense. This is a subtle difference between Adhyatma and Sarga. So Adhyatma is focusing more on inner journey, the spiritual development of each one of us, and it about how to achieve liberation from cycle of birth and death for the individual souls. That is the study of Adhyatma, whereas Sarga is focusing more on the outer journey, the creation of the cosmos itself. It is explaining the structure of the universe, the cyclic nature of the universe, the cyclic nature of creation, dissolution. That is all the subject matter of Sarga. So, despite the different focus, Adhyatma and Sarga, you may have guessed it already. So, one is within, one is outside, but then they are still connected. And that is what Krishna wants to bring out here. He says they are interconnected again. And if you can understand Adhyatma, if you can understand your own self, you can understand Sarga. And vice versa. If you can understand Sarga, you can understand Adhyatma. You know? Have you guys ever read articles or stories where somebody says, for example, they will look at a tree and they will say this tree is 2000 years ago, and when the tree was a plant, there was so much carbon dioxide in the air, and when the tree was so many years old, this is how the atmosphere changed, and you wonder how did they find out all of that. And I mean, this is all you can Google and you can find out. So basically, they take a cross section of the tree, and the rings that they see in the tree, they tell a lot of story. In other words, the tree, if you can understand, you can understand the entire cosmology that happened around the tree. You see, just like that, when I was a child, I used to be very interested in geography, and I read articles that spoke about the whole formation of Grand Canyon, like how the canyon was formed and over so many countless years, and how the climate was different. And I'm like, how do these guys know that, thousands of years ago, this is how the climate was? And then later on, I figured they just take a cross section, even one sedimentary rock you can take, they can look at the layers of the rock, and based on that, they can understand what happened. So this is the whole concept. The same applies to us. If we can totally understand ourselves, Adhyatma, we will get an understanding of Sarga. And that is how our ancients were able to discover the universe. They were able to talk so much about cosmology because they were self-realized. That is the importance of self-realization. We are a microcosm of the whole universe. Like even in the Bible, they say the man is created in the image of God. Means basically, if you can understand this image, you will automatically get a good understanding of what the image is of. So that is the whole idea. In the 6th chapter also, Krishna said something similar. He said, Yo mam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mayi pashyati tasyaham na pranashyami sa cha me na pranashyati. For those who see me everywhere and see all things in me, for them I am never lost, nor are they ever lost to me. So this is another aspect of that. So, see me everywhere and see everything in me. That is the Sarga and Adhyatma aspects. So if you can understand this, you are never lost. So, okay, then the interesting thing again. He says, of all knowledge, I am spiritual knowledge. I think that is very easy to... We are all now in the 10th chapter, so everybody is convinced. I hope everybody is convinced that spiritual knowledge is the real knowledge. Okay. Now he says something very interesting. He says in 10.32, among debates, I am the conclusion. So nice, Doesn't matter what the debate is. He says, I am the conclusion of the debate. It's a very simple statement again, but it has a world of meaning, See, I'll give you a very quick analogy or very quick kind of a science of debate. In Sanskrit, basically in the Sanskrit tradition, any debate is supposed to have 3 main stages. The first stage is called Jalpa. Jalpa is where initially the evidence is presented. The case is made initially. That is the Jalpa stage of a debate. Then the second stage is known as Vithanda. Vithanda means that is a more aggressive phase. We also call it the middle game. So I have presented my facts, you have presented yours, and now we are manipulating each other's facts, and that is the middle game. That is called as Vithanda. And then the final stage is the most important. It is called as Vada. Because that is where you derive a conclusion and you try to convince the other person. Like based on whatever we said, I conclude. That is Vada. So... But what happens is in the heat of argument, it is very easy to get lost. You keep going back and forth, Jalpa, Vitanda, it keeps going, and you can keep getting entangled and all the play of words and drama and all of that. But for those who have eyes to see, what matters is the conclusion. And Krishna is saying that is why that doesn't matter how much drama you bring in, doesn't matter how much people try to twist facts. The conclusion is always known, and I am that conclusion. You know, take for example, there was a time when people were debating whether the earth was rotating around something or whether the earth was the center of the universe. And they had endless debates, but the conclusion is already known, right? And Krishna says, I am already that conclusion. No, doesn't matter which way the debate goes. It's a very profound truth. What is more profound for us to understand is, at the deepest level, all debates, all discussions, they are all our effort to understand the divine. Because we are trying to understand an aspect of creation which is created by the divine. So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what we are debating about. If we really pay attention, if we introspect deeply, it is again our yearning to know the divine. Just like we said, procreation is still driven by our yearning to unite with the divine. Just like that, any debate we have, at its deepest, it is a yearning to know the divine. And Krishna says, I am already the divine. You see, that is what he means by, I am the conclusion of every debate. It's a very, very profound, deep message. So, what is the truth? What is the fundamental principle of everything? So, Krishna is revealing the divine itself. That is what permeates and sustains everything. It is the source. It is where all wisdom comes. So it's very powerful, very transformative. He's saying that no matter how complex or convoluted the debates may become, no matter how much we get lost in the game of words and ideas and all of that, if you see beyond the surface, if you go beyond the gross, you will always see the divine at the other side. That is what is discernment. And that is what Krishna is saying. When you practice discernment, eventually you will learn to see the divine in everything. And you will learn to separate the real from the unreal, separate the Sat from the Asat. And he says the absolute truth is always Sat and I am Sat. So it doesn't matter what you are debating. I don't care what the debate is. I am Sat already. And eventually after, if not in this lifetime, in some lifetime, you will reach that Sat. Very, very powerful. So basically, Krishna is inviting us to engage in all the great debates of life, not with the goal of winning or losing, but with the goal of coming closer to Sat, coming closer to that absolute truth. That should be our goal behind every debate. If we change our perspective that way, every debate will be a divine experience, because you are really not interested in winning or losing. You are only interested in reaching that Sat behind every question, you see. So beautiful. And finally, I think Krishna talks about, he says, at the heart, I am the letter A. Why would Krishna say I am A? Now, it's very interesting because in Sanskrit, which is the language of gods, the ancient language of Bharat, there's a simple truth, and I'm explaining this because it's very, very deep, is, in Sanskrit, how words are formed. Every word is, every letter, every alphabet in Sanskrit, it is formed by combining a half letter with a vowel A. In other words, like K, K, G, G, Ng, right? But where did K come from? K came from Ik and A. G is Ig and A. So like that, every letter is a half. It becomes full only when you add A to it. That is how Sanskrit is explained. Is a principle. This principle is very key to understanding the creation itself, because when Krishna says, I am the letter A, basically that is the foundation of all letters. So it's not just about linguistic. Do you know the main difference between Sanskrit and any other language? Sanskrit is known as the language of gods because Sanskrit is actually a one-on-one mapping with reality itself. So that is why the right mantra, the right shlokas, they have so much power, because they are a representation of reality. That language is designed in such a way. It is not a random collection of words and random collection of terms. It is a very precisely crafted language. For example, when you say dukkha, that word, that sound actually reverberates with sadness. Just like that, when you say sukha, that reverberates with happiness. So just like that, that language itself has a correlation with reality. And what is the truth of all reality? That behind everything, nothing can stand by itself unless it is supported by the divine. And that is what Krishna means by I am a. Because none of these letters can exist if they are not added with a. There is no ka if there is no a. There is no ga if there is no a. There is no na if there is no a. You can say no, but even there is a. So that is the beauty. Isn't it beautiful? Isn't it profound? See how Krishna can convey something so profound by just saying I am a. Very, very beautiful. And another very beautiful thing he says is I am dvandva. Let us see. So I'll explain it a little better. So there is this concept of samāsa, which means compound words in Sanskrit. In Sanskrit, compound words means combining two words. There is a very strict grammar for that. I won't go too much into depth, but I will give you the most interesting aspect here. So there are 6 different ways to combine words as per a Sanskrit grammar. And the key concept is, in most of these ways of combining words, when you combine 2 words, one word usually loses its importance and it just becomes supporting for the other word. For example, Nara means man, Simha means lion. But when you combine it, it becomes Narasimha. Narasimha means it is just a man lion. So that becomes a qualifier for the lion now. You see? So now it is not a man and a lion in equal importance. The moment it becomes Narasimha, the Simha is what is more prominent. You see? But the one exception of a samāsa is dvandva. What is dvandva? Dvandva is that way of combining words where even after combining, both words retain their prominence. The most beautiful example of a dvandva is the combination of Radha and Krishna. So when you combine the word Radha and Krishna, it becomes Radha Krishna. Radha still is prominent, Krishna still is prominent. So they are prominent by themselves, they are prominent even when they are combined together. So beautiful, so profound. So that is the main difference. That is why dvandva is so important, and that is why Krishna says, among samāsas, I am dvandva. What does that mean? It means both words will keep their individual importance and identity, even when they come together. Even when they come together to create something more wonderful. So Krishna is saying that unity doesn't mean you lose your own identity. He says you can maintain your identity and still practice unity and together create something even more beautiful. It may take a lot more time to internalize all this, but as long as you get an idea, as long as you appreciate what Krishna is saying, I'm sure you will all go back to this text and read it again and try to go to the depths of it. So that is the path of true wisdom. Okay, so this is pretty much the supreme wisdom that Krishna is offering us through all of these vibhutis. I hope it's all making sense. I've tried to do justice as much as possible. I've tried to dig as deep as I can without going too deep, and I have also tried not to oversimplify things. I hope this feels like a good balance. I hope it was not too much, and I hope it was also not too little. So with that, I'll stop talking. Hare Krishna. If you had any questions, doubts, please go ahead. Okay then, Hare Krishna. See you all in the next session. Have a beautiful rest of the day, rest of the week. Stay blessed.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Guruji.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. It was a beautiful session.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.